bringing 5G to the factory of the future. I'm Tonya Hall for ZDNet and Tech Republic, and joining me is Robert Boyanovsky. He is the Vice President of Enterprise Mobility Product Management at AT&T. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us about your group and what it does at AT&T.
We've got a very enterprising group here at AT&T. We're responsible for developing the products and technology that you use every day on your cellular connectivity for businesses. So everything from the simplest, smartphone devices or MiFi devices, all the way up to complex applications that businesses use to drive their businesses forward and drive some outcomes. So that's things like mobile applications, mobile form technology, push to talk. And what's really cool right now is this team is responsible for bringing 5G forward. So that keeps us busy and it keeps us excited.
AT&T and Samsung just announced their intention to create the first manufacturing-focused 5G innovation zone in the U.S. at a Samsung semiconductor plant in Austin, Texas. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is one of the super cool things that is driving innovation. So Samsung, like AT&T, is a major tech leader, and what we are doing together is bringing forward 5G technology. So the idea behind it is to put 5G, in real life, in real form, available in their innovation zone. So what we can do with it is bring in best of breed applications and solutions to go figure out what's going to work for them. And what's super cool about that is their fabrication plant is one of the most high-tech plants, on the planet. And as we start seeing interesting use cases and solutions, we can take them out of that innovation zone and right into the factory floor. So it's really exciting.
What are the characteristics of a smart factory?
Characteristics, it's a lot of concrete, to be honest with you. And so there are challenges with technology. Today's, tech challenges for a wireless company like ourselves is it's really hard to penetrate wireless inside of a factory like this. But once you get inside, then there's massive connectivity and sensors and data flowing everywhere. We're talking tens of millions of connected things, all with the heartbeat driving off information. And what's critical for the factory of the future is to be able to take that data and do something with it, right? Do some analytics with 4K, cameras, sensor management or environmental sensors in the factory to, drive change.
So what specifically then makes 5G better in a factory than robust Wi-Fi or Ethernet LAN?
Well, what's super cool about the technology as we are on this pathway from LTE to 5G is what's called multi-access edge compute, or MEC for short. This gives the customer the ability to separate their data from the carrier's data. And that's akin to what happens today in Wi-Fi. But now this kind of hybrid or private model gives them more power, more control of the data that they need to drive their business. So the example there is, instead of taking data off these sensors and cameras and sending them back through the network, all the way through our core and back to the customer site, that data can get peeled off, sit locally, and then they can do their compute and processing and decision making right there.
How do you see 5G and IoT working together in a factory?
The promise for 5G, in our standards is, 1 million connected things per square kilometer. That is literally everything being connected. And so for us, those sensors can, now all be connected, sending data back into the network and driving, that information forward. And I think that cellular technology is inherently a little bit more mobile than, let's say, a Wi-Fi technology that you brought up. For all the tech types out there, there's less jitter, there's less loss, it's under load, more reliable. And I think from a business perspective, our customers are always looking about, cost savings and business outcomes. They can really now look at their infrastructure and layer in new cellular technology and drive a more profitable outcome.
How does the smart factory extend to the entire supply chain?
Well, that's what, MEC really enables for our customers. Not only the data inside the factory and all those sensors I was talking about that today are fixed, but the supply chain that's coming into the factory and the sensors that are there, the customer really needs to see end-to-end visibility. So one of the benefits of an AT&T solution in this private MEC space is that you can take your supply chain or your supply that's coming into your factory floor and the data there, roam it into your factory, and then when it goes out the other side of the door, you can also track your product as it goes out to sale.
From an RF transmission and receiving standpoint, how does 5G differ from 4G and Wi-Fi? What are the frequencies? What are the antennas?
So that's a good question. So, at AT&T, we play with all kinds of frequencies, low band, mid band, and now, this millimeter wave stuff. So really tiny waves is the way I like to describe it. But those waves are high frequency. They don't travel a ton, right? You're talking a couple football fields maybe at max. But once they're there, the bandwidth opportunity to ride on those waves is enormous. And this is where the millimeter wave spectrum gives you a ton of bandwidth. But there are also challenges with that. So, the best ideal situation is to layer them together, put LTE technology, mid-band technology on top of millimeter wave. And so you've got the best of both worlds. I think that's what's really cool about the network, right? And someone like AT&T here, we have the ability to put all of our spectrum assets to work, and depending on what the customer's use case is, deliver them high bandwidth or moderate bandwidth, depending on what they're going to do. For example, there may be a sensor in the factory that only talks to the network once a month, just says, hey, I'm here and here's the readings. And there are other sensors that may be taking, a ton of data. You think about a 4K camera watching a assembly line or production line on an ongoing basis. That type of device would be throwing off tens of gigs, hundreds of gigs a day. So it really is dependent on what the customer is trying to do with it.
What does it mean when you say that the new network is born in software? What does that mean?
Yeah, so we've been on a journey in AT&T to drive our network into this new software-defined network space. And 5G, really, this new brain, this new core, is based in software. It really gives us the ability to do this MEC, mobile edge compute, or multi-access edge compute that I referenced, splitting up the data at a device, a packet, or an IMEI level, and do something unique and different with it.
Robert Boyanovsky, Vice President, Enterprise Mobility Product Management at AT&T. If somebody wants to connect with you, Robert, maybe they want to find out more about the work that you're doing, how can they do that?
Certainly, you can follow me at The Real Mr. Boyo on Twitter, or follow me on LinkedIn.
All right, thanks again. And if you want to find me, you can find me here on ZDNet or Tech Republic or my website, tonyahall.net. Thanks for watching.